So an opera about the life of civil rights leader Malcolm X premieres tomorrow at the Met.
That's right. Anthony Davis's X, The Life and Times of Malcolm X, will mark the second time the Opera House has presented work by Black composer in its 140-year history.
But you don't want to know.
Wow.
My goodness. To the mystery of no one, there has long been a need for diversity in classical music. A 2023 report by the League of American Orchestras found that only 6.7% of conductors and 2.4% of musicians are Black.
So today we're chatting with Kazim Abdullah, who is conducting the revised score for X. He made his conducting debut at the Met in 2009, becoming the third Black conductor in the Met's history.
Kazim Abdullah, thank you so much for joining us on New York Living.
Lovely to be here.
Good to have you.
First and foremost, what does it mean to be returning to the Met after 14 years?
No, yeah, it's a great thing to. Yeah, you know, the Metropolitan Opera, of course, is known as one of the best opera houses in the world, and it's always a privilege and an honor for any conductor, no matter where they're from, to stand on the podium there, to work with this historic, amazing orchestra, and to get to work with them, and to work in what is really considered one of the best places to hear and experience opera.
Absolutely, right? And we just showed the numbers at the top right here in your introduction. For you, what drew you into the world of classical music from the start?
Well, you know, it's interesting. I feel very lucky. I actually grew up in the Midwest, so I grew up in Dayton, Ohio. And I grew up in a time when there was still the chances for kids, to learn and pick up an instrument through the public school. So, like, you know, when I was 9, 10 years old, I got the chance, and I decided to choose the clarinet. And I was lucky that I had teachers that sort of saw that I had a certain amount of talent, and they kind of pushed me forward and like told me, oh, you should maybe consider going to this music camp, or you know, they just pushed me in the right direction and made sure I got all the things that I needed to know to continue to grow as a musician.
Why music over anything else,
Yeah.
and instrumental music?
Well, you know, what I love about music is that there's this natural built-in community with music. Like, you know, whether you play in a small chamber ensemble, like a string quartet, or you play in a band or orchestra. So there's always this sort of sense of community, always this sense of working with other young people. And yeah, you know, it's a great way to learn and to develop one's creativity. And so that was what drew me to it.
So you pick up the clarinet, right?
Yeah.
And how does that translate years later to the conductor role?
No, that's true. Those are two very different things.
Right.
So, you know, from basically from the time I started playing clarinet, I played in orchestras. So even when I was 11, 12 years old, I played in, you know, youth orchestras where, you know, kids my own age. And I would always see the conductor and think, oh, I would kind of like to do that. And so, yeah, you know, I was just always curious to, you know, learn all about the pieces I was playing. So there's this thing called a score that has sort of all the instruments. So I would bring the score to the rehearsal and play along to the score as I'm in rehearsal, and that was kind of how I got my start. But no, I already kind of knew at like the age of 12, 13 that, oh, that's something I'd like to do. So.
Did you find there were other young musicians of color with whom you could commune? Because I'm a product of the New York City public schools. I played the flute, and there weren't a lot of us.
Yeah.
I did not go on to become a musician, but you did.
Yeah.
So I wonder.
Not a lot of flutists, or not a lot of...
Not a lot of students of color.
Right, okay.
In music.
In music, yeah, in classical music. Yeah, well, you know, I think it just depends on where you live. That's one thing for sure. But there always needs to be, in my opinion, more support for the arts in the schools, of all schools, because I think that's like just an important step that I think every kid in America should have the chance at least to pick up an instrument, to learn an instrument, to learn about music. And I feel, yeah, you know, and this is what I say, I was lucky in like, yeah, you know, when I was a very young person, when I was 11 years old, if you can imagine the person that's playing principal clarinet in the New York Philharmonic, he's a Black clarinetist, and he and I go way back. We're the same age, and we met when we were 11 at the Interlochen Arts Camp. So, you know, when you get to know people at such a young age that are also interested in music, you just kind of keep rolling with the punches.
Yeah.
And like, you know, he and I have, of course, kept in touch all these years. And so I can definitely credit having met people like that already in my youth, really helped towards my development as a musician and conductor.
Your face just totally lit up,
Yes.
by the way, when you
Well, no, yeah, well, yeah, like, you know, you talked about that, and that's actually like, yeah, you know, whether it's through sports or music, it's important that kids are involved
Right.
in working with other kids
Yeah.
and learning about
Yeah.
things, and these, yeah, you know, and that's how we develop our
sense of self and who
Our
we
sense
are.
of self,
Did you play an
exactly.
instrument?
I was self-taught the piano, but I wasn't
that's
professionally
right, that's
taught.
right.
But what happened to you with the flute?
Sports found me,
Yeah.
but I have 2 children who are
Right.
incredibly musical.
They are.
I don't know where they got it from.
Yeah.
They certainly didn't get it
I
from
want to talk to you about X.
Yes.
Okay, because the voice in that, the little snippet we played, unbelievable.
Yeah, yeah, that was Will Liverman, and he's playing the role of Malcolm X, and he's really one of the, just an amazing, mellifluous baritone voice, very charismatic actor on stage, and he really, he makes Malcolm X his own. Yeah, like, you know, he has this wonderful combination. He's able to invoke X, but he's still himself, and that's what I find so magical about his interpretation.
So what was your reaction when you knew you were going to bring this to the Met and you would be the conductor?
My reaction was like, you know, I was just so excited because, yeah, you know, Malcolm X is, you know, he's just sort of this timeless, iconic American figure in our history, and what he represents, that, yeah, you know, he stood for what was right, and he stood on his principles, and of course he suffered the consequences for that in the end, but, you know, to be able to hear and see his life on the operatic stage is kind of an unbelievable thing, and just the way the opera is set, it's like I would say this opera is kind of like a quintessentially American opera, so that if you think of like works like West Side Story or La Trouble in Tahiti, like in Bernstein, Anthony Davis's opera, who was the composer, Anthony Davis, and then his cousin Thulani wrote the libretto, and then his brother Christopher made the story so that it could be adapted to the operatic stage. They really made this amazing story, and the way that Anthony composed the music, he takes jazz, he takes bebop, and he infuses it in the operatic structure and framework. So it really, it's not your typical opera in that way, where it really uses so much of American music, what we know as blues, what we know as jazz, what we know as pop music and folk music and things like this. All of that is incorporated into this operatic framework to tell Malcolm X's story.
Beautiful.
And you get to conduct it all.
We got a lot to see.
We are booked solid. We got plays to see. We have
musicals,
operas to
we got
come
operas.
see. Kazim Abdullah, thank you so much for joining us, and congratulations.
Well, thank you very much.
Is this a thing in conducting?
This is a thing. This is a cutoff.
This is that's what we just got in our
That's
ear.
okay.
We
We're
just
gonna
got
cut this off.
Yeah.
X, The Life and Times of Malcolm X premieres tomorrow. For more information, go to metopera.org.